what's up? This is TJ. How you doing? Thanks for coming back to my channel. Today we're taking a look at the Yamaha YDS-120, and I'm going to tell you why I think this wind synth, this wind controller is absolutely awesome. Let's check it out. Okay, I want to take a close-up look here at the YDS-120 to show you why I think this wind controller, this digital saxophone, is awesome, especially compared to the competition. All right, first thing you ought to know, if you don't know already, this thing could be had for less than $500 here in the US. I've seen in Europe some even better deals, even with the value-added tax. I don't think there's anything other out there that I've seen that compares in terms of the amount of features that this has against anything else for that amount of money. This thing is a true value in my humble opinion. It is truly high quality. Let's take a look at this for a second. Give me yourself a full look around, right? All right, I'm going to let those images speak for themselves. This unit is extremely high quality. All right, why is that? It's built by Yamaha. Yamaha is the only wind manufacturer that makes real wind instruments. You think they know what they're doing? You bet they do. Educators insist on Yamaha student saxophones. Pros play all the high-end Yamaha horns, oftentimes in preference to some of the vintage horns that a lot of sax players, seem to go for. So Yamaha really knows what they're doing. And you could tell by just looking at this beautiful, well-made, well-engineered wind instrument. All right, so let's take a look at that. You got the full sax key layout. All of the side keys, all right? Not just a few of them, all of them, all right? Even the extra alternate keys. You don't get that on other instruments, right? And they're not just little buttons, right? Okay, they are actual key-like feel things with levered spring feel, just like a real saxophone. They are on ribbed construction, just like a real saxophone. No other manufacturer is doing this. Look at that. That is really, really awesome. Okay, it comes with 2 speakers. If you want to use the speakers, you got one here, one on the end there. Okay, so you get a stereophonic type of sound. This full key layout is made also with individually formed keys. Every key is individually created, individually made. They're all different. None two are the same. And they are made of high impact plastic. It's not some kind of like 3D printed stuff. We'll just say that. Okay? You look at the back of this thing, it also is very high quality. You have a very bright display. You have a layout of controls here that's very, very succinct. It's very, very easy to understand. The buttons for the octaves, okay, they feel actually pretty good to me, okay? I did put a mouthpiece patch on here because my thumb had a tendency to slide across a little bit, but that fixed that problem there. All right, you have the battery box, takes AAA batteries. All right. You can power it through the USB. That is a big deal. A lot of manufacturers make these things and you cannot power it via the USB. You got to power it either through the battery or through an extra DC line. All right, so that's a big deal. And that is a standard thumb rest, and it has this really cool thing, this joystick. All right, and that joystick is actually really useful for playing external type of instruments. They call it an analog controller. I call it a joystick. But that's pretty much what it is. And I did a little bit of adjustments here on this. I moved this up to the side so you can get to it. You can really subtly move it. Okay, you see that? You can really subtly move it with just your thumb and get a lot of control out of that. So this instrument is very well made. It's very playable. I've seen some complaints online that it is glitchy and that, you know, you play it and you get some wrong notes. I cannot disagree with that anymore. I mean, realistically, it's like a lot of wind instruments. It tends to be, you know, unforgiving in some ways. And I don't mean that as a negative, I actually mean it as a positive. Some people like to use these things as, you know, practice instruments, and that's exactly why it's good for that. Because if you play sloppy with your fingering, right, or you play too lightly, you like to do that with your sax, okay? On the saxophone, it doesn't really make that much of a difference, but on here, it's going to make a difference, particularly if you have a tendency to release your hand, your left hand while you're playing notes on your right, all right? Yeah, that's going to make some glitches. This will train you not to do that. All right, the YDS-120 and its bigger brother also come with this app that is available. And I'm going to show you how to connect it. You want to make sure you do it this way because unfortunately, the YDS-120, unlike its bigger brother, the YDS-150, does not have Bluetooth. So you're going to have to do this through a wired connection. That is a bit of a negative because at times that wired connection is going to need an adapter. It also does mean that you can't really play external instruments at the same time while you're trying to make these settings. All right, but that's a small complaint. All right, so I've got my USB cable. This is USB micro. I needed an adapter to go into my iPhone 15, which uses USB-C. That's this little adapter here. You see that? There we go. All right. I'll include a link in the description where you can get one of those. You're going to want to plug that in. All right, to the bottom there. There you go. Wait for the light to come on. Let's see, make sure it's plugged in all the way. There we go. You're going to wait for the little light to come on there before you try to get into the app. All right, so then we get into the app. Come on, there we go. And you'll see, digital saxophone. Click that. We are now connected to that. All right, so this allows you to do a number of great things. And you'll excuse me, I'm doing this upside down for the camera, but it allows you to create user voices. So you can take some of the sounds and you can do voice edits on those. You can do transpositions, okay? You can do offsets of the cutoff, the resonance. You can change the volumes. You can do a number of different voices. All right. Probably the things you're going to use the most, though, are these alternate fingerings that you can create. Say you want to get a different alternate fingering for any given note, like one in the altissimo range, for example. Let's see. Let's go up to here. You could pick that note out. Say you want an alternate fingering for G5, you can create your own alternate fingering, and then you can save that. So that's really, really awesome. And then you can also change the settings. All right. Now this is very important for when you want to use the YDS-120 as a controller, and I often want to do that. I actually like using it that way more than I'm actually interested in using the internal sounds. But you know, this way is what allows you to do that, and this allows you to just set the key response, okay, the breath pressure, the breath response, a number of things. Should mention this key response thing is actually very, very important. I think that a lot of people who have complained about this being glitchy have not actually found this key response parameter. You can set that to the amount of ways that the keys respond to your playing. The higher the number, the less glitching that you're going to get. The lower the number, the more glitching it may be susceptible to, but that may actually work better for the way that you finger the keys. All right, you can have the auto power off if you want to have that. That'll save some of your battery power. All right, and then you can have all these other things. And the important thing here for when you're using it as a controller is the MIDI out settings. All right, you can set it up for a transpose. You can set it up for the type of controllers, breath. Okay, this is velocity, so you can use the breath value or a fixed velocity value. I like the breath value. All right, for the breath sensor, it does have a breath sensor in it. When it sends breath out, I have it set up for CC number 2, which is the standard MIDI controller number for breath control. And then it also can send out a secondary one for aftertouch or any other CC which you desire. All right, say CC 11, which is expression. Okay, this is actually really a very good use of the breath controller and the CCs and the MIDI implementation on here. You don't see this on other instruments because it is important when you're hooking it up to other hardware synths, because some hardware synths do not respond to breath control, but they are going to respond to aftertouch. So that's a very important thing to have and very handy. All right, then the next thing you can do is remember that little joystick I mentioned to you. Okay, well, you can have that set up to where you move it either up or down. Let's go over here. All right, so if I move this up or down, that's going to affect the pitch bend or whatever else that I choose. All right, you can send it to all kinds of different CCs, or I have it set up for when it goes side to side, it is the modulation wheel. And that's also very important. So that allows you to have a lot more hands-on control than you normally would be able to get from any other onboard control on your digital saxophone. I don't really see that. Other ones, there's ones, some of them have little buttons that you can push or little touch-sensitive keys, but it's not quite the same as having this thumb controller right here that you can actually get really good at using with your expression. Okay, let's talk about some cons, some things I think that could be better. Some things that some of you players may be looking for that this does not have, and it may be important to you. Some of these things aren't as important to me, and I'll explain why, but let's go through them. First off, it does not have a bite or lip sensor to where you can vary the pitch. A lot of the controllers, say the Roland controllers, or the more expensive ones, say the NRAD or something like that, have that. The EWs have that. and that's important to a lot of people. I don't find it as nearly as important as you might think, particularly when you're using it as a controller, because a lot of times it doesn't sound particularly natural the way it would on a real saxophone. It's up to you. There are other ways to simulate that, say with an expression pedal or just in the way you program your synthesizer. So it's not as important to me. There is no Bluetooth on this. The YDS-150 does have Bluetooth, but the YDS-120 does not. That is a bit of a downer for connecting to the app. As you saw, you have to do a hardware connection to the app, and you can't stream music to it, to the earth, and then listen through that and mix in concert with the headphones. Me, I don't care about that at all. But again, it is something that may be important to others. Regarding the app is pretty much set it and forget it. You're going to set it once, and you're probably never going to use it that much again, just for a little tweaking here and out. In and out. It does not have a dedicated line out. Okay, most of these wind controllers have a dedicated line out that can be used to go directly to an amplifier or something like that. It does not have that. It does have a headphone out, which can be used for that line out. You're just going to probably want to use an adapter for that. Let me get one of these here. I use this cable. All of the sound samples that you heard in this video use this cable. It's just a stereo mini plug that goes split to 2/4 inch plugs. But right there you go. Stereo mini cable split to 2/4 inch plugs like that, and that just goes right into my audio interface. All of the recordings that you've heard that are of the internal sounds are being used with that cable. There is also an external audio in, so you can actually get external audio for backing tracks or something like that. Again, if you want to use this as a practice tool, you can do that. It will mix it in with your internal sounds on the YDS-120. One other downer though is that the USB does not have USB audio. In other words, you can't use this as an interface on its own. It won't go directly to your DAW and record if you want to record the internal sounds. That's again important to some folks. It's not really that important to me because I tend to use this thing more for external sounds. There's no factory case available. Okay, that's kind of a downer. I just got myself a soft bag for this. So again, that's kind of a downer there. And the other downer is, as you've seen, well, you need all these little cable adapters, right? All this other stuff in order to get the most out of it. All right, that may or may not be a downer. In fact, in order for me to use it with my iPad, I got to get another cable adapter, a lightning adapter to USB micro, which I don't have right now. So I can't demonstrate that to you. All right, there are some items about this that I'm sort of like neutral on. One is that it comes in black, and it comes in black, and it comes only in black. Come on, Yamaha, give us some colors, okay? White with these black keys would look terrific, red or something, okay? There's so much darkness out in the world, we need to have some light, some color. Bring it on, Yamaha. I would definitely trade mine up for something with a lot more color in it. I'm a little bit neutral on the USB micro connector. Some people might say that's not good. You know, USB-C is the latest and greatest thing, okay? You know, I don't really see that that's that much of a big deal myself. because USB-C tends to have an easier ability to yank out than the micro cable. USB-B would be actually probably the better one because it is the biggest surface area of connection. I'm sort of, when you compare all the different types of USB types cables, it's sort of neutral as to whether or not that's good or not. Internally, it has a limited amount of sounds comparatively to some other ones, particularly comparatively, say, to the Roland units, which have a huge amount of sounds that are available and the amount of sounds that you can actually load into it. This only has saxophone sounds, pretty much, and it has a few other, instrument sounds and synth sounds that, aren't really the greatest. Again, me personally, I don't really care about any of that. I want to use this as a controller. This does an excellent job for that. Well, hey, that's it. It's the Yamaha YDS-120 Digital Saxophone. I tell you what, I've seen a lot of reviews on this before I bought one. I bought one with my own money. There's no paid promotion here, by the way. And I also seen some misgivings, some misconceptions, possibly even some misinformation about it. So I didn't really believe any of it because I knew Yamaha's reputation. I had played a WX5 in the past, which I really liked. So I had to check it out for myself, and I'm awful glad that I did because it is really, really great piece of gear, and it can't be beat for the money. The MIDI implementation is really, really good. If you want to use this as a controller, I can highly recommend that. If you want to use this as a practice tool, yeah, I can highly recommend that too, particularly if you play saxophone. You're not going to get better key work on any other instrument for the money. I want to thank you so much also, though, for watching this video. Thank you so much for checking out tjontheroad.com. You can subscribe, you can do all that stuff. You already know that. And, I thank you again for so much for your support. Leave your comments. I do try to respond to all of them. Other than that, I will see you next time.